You know when you see that electric purple in a dessert, maybe a slice of cake or a scoop of ice cream,
Hmm.
it just pulls you in, doesn't it? It's definitely more than just the color. It signals something. Well, special.
Yeah, it really does.
And it feels like these really vibrant treats are just, well, everywhere now.
They are popping up more and more.
So today on the deep dive, we're going to really dig into Yube desserts. We've got this great article to guide us.
Exactly. And it's a fantastic starting point. Our goal today is to, go beyond just how pretty they look.
Right.
We want to understand what makes them tick. So we'll look at their origins, their deep cultural roots, explore all the different kinds of Yube creations,
Okay.
pinpoint the key ingredients, maybe even touch on the health side of things, how you can make them at home, and sort of why they've become such a global thing.
Sounds like a proper exploration.
It's time for a real deep dive into all things Yube.
Okay, so maybe for listeners who are just coming across these dazzling desserts, let's start right at the beginning. What are Yube desserts, really?
Right, so Yube itself, fundamentally, it's a type of purple yam. It's native to the Philippines.
Ah, okay, so not like a sweet potato.
Exactly, that's a key distinction. It's different from the orange sweet potato most people know.
Yeah.
And this yam, it's not just visually stunning, it also has this natural sweetness and a kind of subtle, nutty taste that really sets it apart.
Interesting.
And for centuries, yeah, this unique mix has made it a really beloved base for tons of Filipino desserts. And what's fascinating now is seeing this ingredient, which was once quite regional, gaining popularity worldwide.
And that's driven by the color and taste.
Largely,
Yeah.
yes. That incredible color and that very distinctive flavor profile.
Now, the article mentions ube halaya specifically, calls it a cornerstone. What can you tell us about that one?
Ah, ube alea. Yeah, that's a really traditional Filipino jam. It's made mainly from mashed ube.
A jam, okay.
Yeah, think of a really rich, creamy spread. You often find it on tables during special occasions, holidays, that sort of thing. It really shows how deeply ube is, woven into Filipino food heritage.
It sounds like more than just dessert.
It really is. It's a cultural touchstone.
And speaking of that heritage, the article really drives home the history and the cultural importance of ube. It's clearly not just some new food trend.
Oh, absolutely not. Ube's been in Filipino cooking for centuries. It's deeply connected to the country's history, its culture.
Mm-hmm.
There's actually a quote in the article that I saw put it perfectly. Ube is more than just a purple yam. It's a connection to our heritage and a representation of the Filipino spirit.
Wow, that really says something.
It captures the significance beautifully, I think.
So these desserts aren't just like a sweet treat at the end of a meal.
Precisely. The article points out how ube desserts are often a feature at Filipino gatherings. They act almost like a symbol of togetherness, of community.
That's lovely.
And what I find really compelling is the generational side of it. These recipes are often treasured family traditions, passed down through generations. It connects people not just to each other, but to their history.
The article even sums this up in a table, right? What are the key takeaways from that summary?
Yeah, the table does a good job. It basically shows ube as this symbol of Filipino heritage, traditionally seen in things like ube halaya,
Right.
but then it shows its evolution, how it's adapted into modern things like ube cake and ice cream,
Mm-hmm.
which shows its versatility.
Mm.
And ultimately, it represents community, tradition.
Mm.
It's often served at important celebrations. And yeah, that unique flavor is a big reason it's catching on globally.
Okay, let's get into the really yummy part, the different types of ube desserts. The article lists quite a few that sound
It
amazing.
really does. And it showcases just how versatile ube is. I mean, these desserts clearly appeal if you're looking for something new, something exciting flavor-wise. And let's face it, that purple color is just.
Instantly appealing.
Exactly. It's a powerful first impression.
Okay, let's start with ube halaya again. We know it's a jam, but what else makes it stand out?
Well, beyond just being a jam, making ube palaya is often seen as a bit of a labor of love. You start by boiling and mashing the ube.
Okay.
Then it's cooked slowly, usually with sugar and milk. Sometimes butter or coconut milk gets added for extra richness.
Sounds decadent.
It results in this really intense, creamy, rich treat. And it's versatile, too great on its own, but it's also a key ingredient in other Filipino desserts and pastries.
Right, like a filling or something.
Exactly.
Then there's ube cake. I've seen pictures that purple sponge cake looks almost unreal.
It's definitely a showstopper visually.
Yeah.
And the taste really delivers too. Ube cake is famous for being incredibly moist.
Oh, really?
Yes, and having that distinct sort of subtly sweet ube flavor. The article mentions it's great plain, but also pairs really well with, say, a cream cheese frosting.
Ooh, that sounds like a good combo. The tanginess.
Exactly. The tanginess cuts through the sweetness nicely.
And for something cooler, oob ice cream? That definitely seems to be having a moment.
It really is. Oob ice cream is such a refreshing way to enjoy that flavor, especially in warmer weather.
Hmm.
It's typically described as having this rich, creamy texture, and that signature sweet nutty obi taste really comes through.
I've seen it in more shops lately.
Yeah, its growing presence in, like, mainstream ice cream places definitely shows it's expanding beyond just Filipino communities.
The article even mentions oob pancakes. That sounds like a fun breakfast.
Doesn't it? Oob pancakes are a really playful, flavorful twist on a classic. The article suggests topping them with fresh fruit or syrups,
Nice.
making breakfast both delicious and, well, visually striking again. It's a great example of how you can weave oob into familiar foods.
And the article includes that summary table again, comparing these. What are the main points it highlights there?
Yeah, the table breaks down the core bits. For oob halaya, main ingredients are oob, sugar, milk. Texture's creamy. Taste is sweet and nutty.
Okay.
Oob cake uses oob flour, sugar, eggs. Texture is moist. Taste is distinctly oob, quite sweet.
Got it.
Oob ice cream. Oob cream, sugar. Texture, cold, creamy taste. Sweet oob. And oob pancakes.
Yeah.
Oob, flour, eggs, milk. Texture is fluffy. Taste is a bit more delicate. Slightly sweet oob.
And that quote comes up again. Oob desserts are not just visually appealing, they offer a depth of flavor that's hard to find in other ingredients. Really reinforces that it's more than just looks.
Exactly. That amazing color gets your attention first, sure. But it's that unique sort of complex flavor that really makes oob desserts stick in your memory.
So what are the building blocks? What are those key ingredients that give oob desserts their special character?
Yeah, knowing the main ingredients is key, both for appreciating them and if you want to try making them. The article lays out the main components.
Let's start with the star, obviously. The oob root.
Right, the oob root, the purple yam itself, that's the absolute foundation. It comes from the Philippines, as we said. And it's not just about the color or the taste. It actually brings some nutrients to the table, too.
Oh.
Yeah. And its flavor, that slightly sweet, nutty taste, that's really the defining thing in so many oob dishes.
Okay, and what about making them sweet? What do people typically use?
Well, sweeteners are obviously key in desserts. The article specifically calls out condensed milk as a favorite.
Ah, condensed milk.
Yeah, and you can see why it adds sweetness, of course, but also this wonderful richness and creamy texture.
Right.
Vanilla extract is also mentioned quite a bit. It seems to really enhance and round out the ubi's natural flavor.
And for adding extra texture, maybe some crunch or different layers of flavor.
A good question. Coconut flakes and different kinds of nuts come up a lot.
Like almonds or walnuts.
Yeah, things like that. They add a really nice textural contrast, that crunch against the creaminess. And another layer of flavor, too. They work really well in cakes, the halaya, ice cream.
Makes sense. Now, moving away slightly from just the taste, the article mentions potential health benefits of oob. That's kind of unusual for a dessert ingredient.
It is interesting, isn't it? Oob isn't just empty calories. It does bring some nutritional value. The article points out it's pretty rich in a few key nutrients.
And what specifically? What are the nutritional highlights?
Well, it's noted as a good source of vitamin C and vitamin A, both important for your immune system, vision, general health.
Okay.
It also provides potassium, which is good for heart health, blood pressure, and importantly, it contains dietary fiber.
Ah, fiber's always good.
Right. Good for digestion, helps manage blood sugar, and it's also rich in antioxidants.
What do they do again?
Antioxidants basically help protect your body's cells from damage caused by things called free radicals. So oob packs a bit of a nutritional punch.
So it's almost like you get a little health boost while you're indulging.
That's one way to look at it. I mean, obviously, oob desserts are still desserts, often with added sugar and fat.
Sure.
But the oob itself does bring some inherent nutritional benefits along for the ride, which is nice.
Definitely. Now, for listeners who might be feeling inspired, thinking, maybe I could make this at home, what kind of guidance does the article offer?
The article is quite encouraging, actually. It suggests that making oob desserts at home is definitely doable and fun, too. It even gives a basic oob cake recipe to get people started.
Okay, let's break that down. What are the key steps and ingredients for that basic cake?
Right. The recipe lists ube halaya. That's important. Using the pre-made jam, then all-purpose flour, sugar, eggs, and melted butter. Those are the basics.
Standard cake stuff, mostly.
Pretty much. The method involves preheating your oven, mixing the dry ingredients, mixing the wet ingredients, including that crucial ube halaya,
Right.
and then gently folding the wet into the dry. Just until combined, you don't want to overmix.
Ah, the classic cake rule.
Exactly. Then pour it into the pan, bake for maybe 30 to 40 minutes. And a key tip mentioned is don't overmix and use good quality uphalaya for the best flavor and moisture.
That sounds pretty straightforward. What about making the halea itself from scratch? Any tips there?
Yes, for the ambitious.
Mm-hmm.
The article advises choosing good quality ube roots first. Then you need to cook them until they're really, really tender,
Okay, super soft.
very soft.
Mm.
Then you mash it thoroughly. After that, you combine it with condensed milk, butter, maybe a bit of sugar, usually over low heat, and you have to stir it constantly.
Ah, requires patience.
Definitely. Constant stirring to stop it sticking or scorching. The key tip here, according to the article, is getting that ube completely tender before mashing, and then being really diligent with the stirring once the milk and butter go in. That's how you get it smooth.
Right. And what about ube ice cream? Any fun ideas in the article for making that?
Yeah, definitely. The article suggests a base using ube halaya mixed with coconut milk, cream, and sugar. Then churn it in an ice cream maker.
Sounds simple enough.
And for extra flair, it suggests folding in things like toasted coconut flakes or even little bits of mochi for a chewy texture.
Ooh, mochi. Interesting.
Yeah, and it really encourages you to experiment, try different mix-ins, maybe play with sweeteners like honey or maple syrup instead of just sugar, and even add a tiny pinch of salt.
Salt and ice cream.
Yeah, just a pinch. It can really make the sweetness pop and bring out the other flavors.
Clever. Now, how does ube stack up against other things used in desserts? The article specifically compares it to sweet potatoes.
That's a really common question, because sometimes, especially the purple varieties of sweet potato, they can look a bit similar. But the article is very clear. Ube has a distinct flavor that really sets it apart.
So what are the main differences the article points out?
Primarily, it comes down to taste and how they're typically used.
Hmm?
Ube is generally described as being sweeter and having that more noticeable nutty flavor.
Right, the nuttiness.
Yes, which makes it really well suited for desserts. Sweet potatoes, on the other hand, tend to be starchier and, well, less sweet naturally.
Okay.
The table on the article sums it up well. Ube's flavor is sweet, nutty, with a velvety texture. Sweet potato is starchy, less sweet, with a starchy texture.
That's quite a difference.
It is, and that difference in flavor profile is largely why ube is the preferred choice for these kinds of sweet treats.
And there's that quote again from a food critic saying, ube brings a unique dimension to desserts. That really emphasizes its special quality.
It really does. It suggests ube offers a kind of flavor complexity you don't find easily elsewhere, making it really sought after, especially in modern baking and pastry.
Okay, so if someone's listening and thinking, right, I want to try this, where can they actually buy ube ingredients?
Good practical question. The article offers some solid advice here. First stop, it suggests, is your regular local supermarket.
Really?
Yeah, check the international foods aisle, or sometimes the Asian food section. You might find fresh ube, frozen ube, or even jars of ready-made ube halaya there.
Worth a look. And if it's not there,
Then your next best bet is definitely a specialty Asian market. These places usually have a much wider selection.
makes sense.
You're more likely to find fresh ube, different brands and types of frozen ube, various ube halayas, and even ube powder, which is really useful for baking.
Ew, powder. Okay.
Yeah, and the staff in those markets can often give you tips on how to use the different products too, which is helpful.
And what about just ordering online? Is that an option?
Absolutely. Online shopping is super convenient, especially if you don't have an Asian market nearby. Lots of online retailers, specialty food stores, even the websites of some larger Asian grocery chains sell ube products.
Good to know.
The article just advises, wisely I think, to check the product descriptions carefully, look at customer reviews if possible, and pay attention to shipping details, especially for frozen items.
Right, you don't want it melting on the way. Okay, so let's talk about why ube desserts seem to be blowing up right now, especially in places like the US. The article suggests a few reasons.
Yeah, it's a definite trend. And the article points mainly to two big factors: the power of social media and just the creativity of home bakers getting into it.
Social media, how so? Because of the color.
That's a huge part of it. That incredible purple is just so photogenic, so Instagrammable.
True.
Platforms like Instagram and Pinterest are visual mediums, and ube desserts look amazing on them. People share photos, recipes. It gets seen, it inspires others.
So it spreads visually.
Exactly. The article specifically mentions Instagram for the photos and Pinterest as a place people go to find ube recipes and ideas. And, food bloggers and social media influencers have definitely helped boost its profile too.
And the other factor was home bakers.
Yes, as ingredients like oob halaya and oob powder become easier to find, like we just discussed,
Right.
it empowers home bakers to start experimenting. They see these cool purple desserts online, they can get the key ingredient, and they try it out. The article highlights things like oob cake, oob ice cream, and even oob cheesecake as examples of what's trending among home bakers right now.
Ubi cheesecake. Sounds intense.
Doesn't it? Shows the versatility again.
So once you've made or bought your Yube dessert, what flavors go well with it? Does the article give any pairing suggestions?
It does encourage playing around with flavors. It highlights a few key pairings that work really well with oob. Coconut is a big one.
Ah, classic tropical combo.
Exactly. Adds that creamy tropical note. Vanilla is another classic pairing. It provides a nice contrast and really lets the oob flavor shine.
Simple but effective.
And then nuts, walnuts, almonds, pecans, they add that lovely crunch and echo the natural nuttiness of the oob itself.
Okay, good tips. And what about actual serving suggestions? Any creative ideas there?
Yeah, the article has a handy table for this too. For oob cake, it suggests something like a light coconut whipped cream, nice for summer gatherings.
Sounds good.
For oob ice cream, it suggests crushed nuts for texture, or maybe chewy mochi pieces, great for a casual dessert.
Okay.
And for the traditional oob halaya, maybe just some toasted coconut flakes sprinkled over, or toasted sesame seeds, often seen at more traditional Filipino celebrations.
Nice touches. Ubi seems like it could work year-round. Does the article give any ideas for different seasons?
It does, yeah. It shows how adaptable it is. For autumn, it suggests things like an oob pumpkin swirl cake.
Whoa.
Yeah, combining that earthy oob with warm pumpkin spice.
Yeah.
Or an oob apple crisp, pairing tart apples with creamy oob under a crunchy topping.
Cozy fall vibes.
Exactly. And then for summer, more refreshing ideas like ubi mango sorbet, super tropical, or a smooth, elegant ubi coconut panna cotta.
Those sound amazing. Presentation must be a big part of it, too, with that color. Any tips on making them look extra special?
For sure. The article definitely emphasizes that good plating can really make oob desserts pop. It suggests techniques like layering different elements for visual depth,
Okay.
using ring molds for neat shapes, playing with sauces for color contrast and flavor, maybe even edible decorations, stacking components using nice stands.
Lots of options.
Yeah. For garnishes, it recommends keeping it relatively simple but effective. Maybe a sprinkle of coconut flakes, some chopped nuts, a few edible flowers, fresh fruit, or just a neat drizzle of sauce. The key is enhancing, not overwhelming, that natural beauty.
You're right. Let the purple shine. Now, what about people with dietary needs? Vegan, gluten-free? Can they get in on the Yube fun?
Absolutely. The article tackles this directly. It says oob desserts are actually quite adaptable. Yeah. It suggests using plant-based milks, almond, coconut, oat milk, work well. And for gluten-free, using flours like rice flour, almond flour, or coconut flour. It even gives a basic recipe outline for a vegan and gluten-free oob cake using these kinds of swaps.
That's helpful. What are some specific substitutions that generally work well?
For replacing eggs in vegan baking, things like a flax egg or chia egg, that's just the ground seeds mixed with water or even mashed banana, can work as binders.
Okay.
With gluten-free flours, you sometimes need to adjust the liquid amount slightly. For butter, vegan butter spreads or coconut oil are easy swaps. And for sweeteners, maple syrup, agave, or coconut sugar can often replace refined sugar.
So it's definitely possible with a bit of know-how.
Totally possible.
Yube desserts also sound like they could be a really fun thing to bake with kids. Does the article have any kid-friendly ideas?
It does. It positions oob desserts as a great way to get children involved in the kitchen, partly because of that fun color.
Yeah, kids love colorful food.
Exactly. It suggests simple things like oob cookies, maybe flavored with vanilla. Or those oob pancakes we talked about. Kids can help mix and definitely help with toppings.
Fun.
And oob muffins, maybe with a crunchy sugar topping. It also gives tips for involving them. Let them measure ingredients, help with mixing, and of course the decorating part. There's even a little table suggesting which tasks are suitable for kids, depending on the recipe: cookies, pancakes, muffins.
That's thoughtful. Okay, so if you don't want to bake, but you want to try these, where does the article suggest looking?
But it gives a few pointers. Asian bakeries are a great place to start, especially for traditional things like oob halaya or classic Filipino pastries.
Right.
Then you have modern dessert shops or cafes. They often get more creative, maybe with unique oob ice cream flavors or fancy cake designs.
Okay.
And sometimes, even upscale restaurants are incorporating oob into their dessert menus in more sophisticated ways. The article also names a few specific brands to look out for, known for good quality ube halaya, ice cream, or ube powder if you're buying ingredients.
It's interesting, too, how oob is becoming a feature at events and festivals.
It really shows how its cultural significance and popularity are growing. You're seeing more celebrations that really spotlight ube.
Like actual oob
Yeah,
festivals.
the article mentions dedicated ube festivals in the Philippines, naturally. But also, increasingly, dessert festivals or cultural events in other cities around the world are featuring ube vendors prominently.
Cool.
There's another quote. Ube has become a symbol of Filipino culture and cuisine, and these events are a wonderful way to experience its richness.
That captures it well. So how can listeners find out about these events?
The article suggests keeping an eye out for local food festivals or cultural events they might feature ube. Joining online groups or forums focused on Filipino food or desserts is another way.
Good idea.
And following social media accounts of local bakeries or dessert spots that, do ube things, they often promote events they're part of. And it gives tips for attending. Be adventurous, try different things, chat with the vendors, share your finds online.
Makes sense. Finally, the article tackles some FAQs, frequently asked questions, which is always useful for clearing things up. What common misconceptions does it address?
One big one is clarifying, again, that ube is not the same as purple sweet potato. They're distinct.
Right, we covered that.
Also, emphasizing that the vibrant purple color is completely natural. It's not food coloring.
New point.
And reiterating its unique flavor, that nutty, slightly sweet taste that's different from other root vegetables used in desserts.
Okay. And what about health concerns or allergies?
It touches on the nutritional benefits, again, the antioxidants, fiber, vitamins, minerals.
Mhm.
It does mention that while ube allergies are uncommon, they are possible, like any food allergy.
Mhm.
Symptoms could be stomach issues or skin rashes for those sensitive. And it reinforces that ube desserts can usually be adapted for different diets, vegan, gluten-free, as we discussed.
Got it. So bringing this all home, what's the main takeaway message about jumping on the ube trend?
I think the core message is really just to embrace it. Dive in, explore this really delightful world of ube desserts. It's a great way to find new flavors you love, maybe even get into some fun baking projects.
Yeah.
There's such a variety out there, from traditional to modern, so there's probably an ube treat for everyone. And it's more than just a passing fad. It feels like a chance to connect with Filipino culture and be part of this growing global food conversation.
Nicely put. Okay, before we finish, let's do that quick FAQ round again just to lock in the key points. Ready?
Let's do it.
What is ube and where does it come from?
It's a purple yam from the Philippines, used in desserts there for centuries.
What does ube taste like?
Sweet and nutty. Some say hints of vanilla or pistachio.
Nope. Different flavor, different color intensity, different plant.
Can I make ube desserts at home easily?
Yes, especially using ube halaya or ube powder, which you can find in Asian markets or online.
Are ube desserts healthy? Ube itself has nutrients, yeah. But the overall healthiness really depends on the other ingredients, sugar, fat, etc.
Can I make vegan and gluten-free ube desserts?
Definitely. Lots of good substitutions work well.
Where can I buy ube ingredients?
Best bets are Asian markets, specialty food stores, or online retailers.
How do I store leftover ube desserts?
Keep them in an airtight container in the fridge. Many can also be frozen.
Can kids help make ube desserts?
Yes, it's a fun, colorful, and educational activity for them.
Are there specific ube dessert events or festivals?
Yes, they're popping up, especially in Filipino communities and at larger food festivals.
And can I use ube in other kinds of desserts beyond the ones we talked about?
Absolutely. It adds a really unique flavor and color twist to all sorts of things. Get creative. So there you have it, a pretty thorough journey into the really quite enchanting world of ube desserts. We've covered its history, looked at all the different forms it takes, and tried to understand why it's become such a global sensation. You're probably picturing that amazing purple color right now.
I definitely am, and thinking about that sweet, nutty flavor.
Exactly.
And there are so many ways to explore it, aren't there? You could hunt down a local bakery that makes ube treats, or maybe even try making something yourself in your own kitchen.
The possibilities are pretty wide open.
So we'll leave you, our listeners, with this thought. What ube creation, whether store-bought or homemade, will be the first one you try on your own delicious purple adventure?